After a number of years of swapping genres, the Wonderboy series finally established itself in 1989's The Dragon's Trap as a serious competitor to Nintendo's Legend of Zelda. It was praised far and wide at the time, and it would seem that Westone and Sega had nailed that winning formula finally. So a sequel was sure to follow, and sure enough, in 1991, the fifth game in the franchise, Wonderboy and Monster World, debuted in Japan on the Mega Drive, followed by a European and stateside release in 1992. The story in this game is an exact retread of literally all of the games so far. The peaceful kingdom of Pure April, yes, that's the princess from Monster Lair, has been conquered by an evil overlord. This time it's some beast called the Bio-Meka, and he's brought his army of monsters and goons with him. Oh, and he's possessed the mind and body of King Leo of the Dark World. Yes, that one, the same Leo from Monster Lair. So I suppose he needs rescuing too, right? Well, this time it's the turn of Shion, a new protagonist, to take up the mantle of Wonderboy and embark on a quest to put an end to these shenanigans. So far, so boring! Compared to the previous games, it's just the same pie, different crust. Monster World is a Metroidvania-style action RPG in which you have to find and use various items and abilities in order to make it through the world and arrive at the climactic battle with the final boss. You start out with a humble sword, which you can replace with more powerful weapons later on in the shops if you have the money to. Money is dropped by the monsters which beset your path throughout the game. If this is beginning to sound like the Dragon's Trap, well, that's because it's pretty much the same game except with a few adornments. At certain points in your quest you are provided with companions to help you out. Priscilla is a fairy who can find health for you if you most need it. Hotter is a kid who can find secret doors and hidden coins. Shabo is a friendly little spirit who offers some extra help in battle. And Lotto is a wee dragon who also helps deal some damage to enemies. They'll only follow you in their given areas, and truthfully you can largely do without them, with the exception of Hotter, whose ability to find hidden doors is vital to get through one of the dungeons. As is standard for RPGs in pretty much all the Wonderboy games, Shion can equip different armour, boots, shields and weapons. Aside from increased attack and defence, there are some other items that you need to get, or you're not getting anywhere. You need a trident to reach the underwater world, Oasis boots to withstand the scorching heat of the desert, and a bracelet to let you melt your way into the ice world. Along the way there are heart containers to find to increase your overall health to a maximum of 14, something which should be familiar really to anyone who's played The Dragon's Trap, Zelda, or just about any other RPG to be fair. Save your progress by visiting any one of the inns found around the world, although this time they cost you money each time you visit. Shion can also use magic to help him on his quest, some of which we've seen in previous Wonderboy games. Firestorm hurls flaming balls at enemies, burning them to a crisp. Thunder whacks all on-screen enemies with a bolt of lightning. I do wish they could learn the difference between thunder and lightning in these things. Quake Magic shakes the earth, inflicting damage to all except airborne and waterborne baddies. Shield Magic protects Shion from attacks for a short spell. Power Magic can be summoned to increase Shion's attack for a limited time. And Return Magic warps Shion to the last inn that he saved the game at. Magic is found in chests, bought in shops, or awarded to you by NPCs. Replenish it with a stay at an inn, or pick it up from some defeated enemies. Look, I'm going to level with you right now. I didn't enjoy this game half as much as I thought I would. You'd think, wouldn't you, that the follow-up to the almost perfect Dragon's Trap would be nothing short of a masterpiece, particularly now in the 16-bit arena. But no, it's just meh, and it feels like a step back from the Dragon's Trap. In fact, I go so far as to say that on the Mega Drive it feels decidedly 8-bit. If it weren't for the occasional bit of parallax scrolling here and there, I honestly wouldn't be able to identify it as a Mega Drive game. It's like Westone were reluctant to change too much from the success of the game that came before it, but what was fresh and unique in Dragon's Trap now just feels mundane and routine here. The copyright original game 1989 on the title screen might suggest, to a more cynical reviewer, that they just retooled the earlier Dragon's Trap into this sequel of sorts, and just kicked it out the door, hoping that nobody would notice that it's basically the same again. And by same again, I also mean all those annoyances that plagued the last game are here too. Enemies move erratically and unpredictably, and frequently respawn straight away. When you take a hit, you get buffeted helplessly into more danger, and you can lose a lot of health points in short order. It's all made worse by an incredibly unfair save system. You can go for ages between save points, them being so few and far between, during which time you probably picked up some really vital quest items. But if you're killed before you can make it back to the next inn, all that progress is lost, and you've got to start all over again from the last save point. At least in the Dragon's Trap, you got to keep all the quest items that you found before you snuffed it. In fact, in the Japanese version of this game, dying only returns you to the last inn that you stopped at, without wiping any of your progress. It's a shame because there's so much that this game does well, but it's let down by these flaws that are going to discourage all but the most committed players. Of those things that it does well is the music, which I liked a lot, but would you expect anything less than great from the series composer Shinichi Sakamoto? Each piece is carefully arranged to reflect each of the different environments in the world, as well as reprising some of the themes from the Dragon's Trap, particularly during the climactic final dungeon level. There are also a handful of puzzles to overcome, a welcome relief from the usual grind of dungeon crawling and end of level bosses. Here, the Sphinx, last encountered back in Monsterland, makes an appearance, and he can be defeated quite peacefully if you can answer all of his questions correctly. He's also supposed to award you the Thunder Magic, but there is a glitch that sometimes means he doesn't. It's also painfully obvious that the developers try to ape the Zelda titles a wee bit too much, with a brief appearance of an ocarina and a segment of the game in which Shion has to shrink to reach certain areas. All in all, however, Wonderboy in Monster World is an average sort of game which sadly failed to achieve its full potential. It was known as Wonderboy 5 Monster World 3 in Japan, it being the 5th game under the Wonderboy umbrella, but the 3rd in the Monster World subseries. As already mentioned, the only difference aside from the title is the fairer save game system. Sega owned all the rights to Wonderboy and its associated characters, but Westone owned the game itself. So for the PC Engine CD and Turbo Duo versions, distributed by Hudson Soft in 1993, it was reimagined as the Dynastic hero, and now tells the tale of a land called Taran falling under the rule of an evil lizard king called Rippon the Beast, and the young hero, implausibly named Dinah, who springs into action to save it. As well as changing the names of the characters and locations, the Dynastic hero is a complete remake of its source material, making it completely distinct save for the identical gameplay and level layouts. In this version, the graphics are enriched by a vibrant new colour palette, as well as newly drawn character sprites, most notably the beetle motif of Dinah's armour. Because I don't know about you, but I always thought that Shion's crown in the Sega version just looked like he was wearing a pair of Y-fronts on his head. No? Just me then. But what sets this apart from all the other versions is the magnificent CD audio soundtrack, made up of completely original tunes, including a theme song that wouldn't feel out of place in a Saturday morning cartoon, and anime-style cutscenes. By far, the Dynastic hero is my favourite incarnation of this game. Sure, the difficulty is still there, because it perhaps too faithfully replicates the gameplay from the Mega Drive version, but the aesthetics and the sound design make it just that little bit more enjoyable. Although Monster World was a Mega Drive title first and foremost this time round, Master System owners were also treated to a version, at least in Europe anyway. The 8-bit port arrived in 1993, making only a few necessary changes to fit it onto a Master System cartridge, truncating some levels while leaving many of the challenging puzzles intact. The graphics in this version are virtually indistinct from the Mega Drive version, a testament not only to the effort put into the Master System port, but just to how lacklustre the 16-bit game was from a technical standpoint. Unfortunately, however, saving the game is now using everyone's favourite method, the 40-character password. For Brazil, and tell me you're not surprised, it was minimally resprited to resemble the characters of their ever-popular kids cartoon Monica's Gang. Yet again, that poor stuffed blue bunny was used as a cudgel by its preschooling protagonist. Around the time of Monster World's arrival, Sega tried to promote Wonderboy as their answer to Nintendo's Zelda protagonist, Link. In the summer of 1993, the UK publication, Sonic the Comic, printed the first of two 6-part Wonderboy comic strips, entitled Wonderboy in Demon World and Wonderboy in Ghost World. They depicted Shion from Monster World in the titular role as hero, and even poked a little bit of fun at how he earned his infamous nickname. And by a staggering coincidence, the Master System version of this game was reviewed in the magazine a month later, receiving an 80% score and described as
another classic. And if you have any of the previous games, then get this. It's really good. If you're a newcomer to the Wonderboy series, you couldn't ask for a better introduction.
Sega Power, on the other hand, hated the 8-bit version, presumably for just being 8-bit, slapping it with a 57% score, adding,
I wish with every cell in my body that the Japanese would start trying to be more original with their arcade titles. Just a bit of creativity every now and then is all I ask.
Mean Machine Sega were just as confused as everyone else as to the Mega Drive game's title, reviewing it in March 1993 for 3 whole pages as Wonderboy in Monster Land. Seriously, how come nobody noticed that? But they awarded it a pleasing 88% score, declaring,
absorbing and involving puzzle elements go along with Wonderboy style platform action to make this instantly interesting.
The Turbo Duo version didn't fare much better in spite of its makeover and received 72% from Electronic Gaming Monthly in a perfunctory sidebar review, who assessed it as
a good RPG action game, much like the Zelda games for the SNES. The music is fantastic, the graphics are colourful, lots to explore and plenty of weapons to acquire.
Wonderboy in Monster World would be the last time that Wonderboy, or any of his aliases, would take centre stage in his own series during its original run, although it wouldn't be the last game in the series. But that's a story for next time. So there we have it, another Wonderboy game in the bag. I hope you enjoyed this fairly detailed look back at the Wonderboy and Monster World. If you did, please leave a comment, click like and subscribe, it would really mean a lot to me. Click on the bell so that you can be first in line for future videos. That's what they say, isn't it? Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time on Retro Respawn. Capture my